algorithm and JCP team, JCP's geo coverage platform and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I then realized that yeah, data science is cool. I liked working in it. I went back to my college. I picked up projects in
Mm-hmm.
data science, and I had a profile strong enough to get a job as a data scientist
Nice.
as a freshie.
And then after that, graduated, you got into what field?
I graduated. I graduated and I got as a data scientist in Tally.
Tally, and then
Tally,
switch to product within Tally itself.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
As an APM, and how long were you there for? How did that switch happen within Tally?
So, so yeah. See, I'll tell you what. Product APM nowadays, companies have started realizing the value of engineers as APMs, and it is a new gate which has been open for.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this is a recent evolution because earlier, 3 years back, or 2 years back, it wasn't that easy to get into product management. For
Right.
me, or even for many folks who are right now into product management and have been techies earlier, I would say it is because they somewhere in their evolved and
Got it. I think I lost your voice. Are you guys able to hear him?
in previous as a techie.
Got
So
it.
right. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's my personal idea
Take on.
about
Yep.
how. Yes.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Awesome. So I think that gives us a fair idea of how you've transitioned even from data to product and then into another company as well. So given that, okay, like in these careers, what are some things that have helped you transition to product? Like, how was that journey easy, or what steps did you have to do to make that journey into product? Anything that you can share?
Yes. I wouldn't say it was I wouldn't say it was easy. It required me to basically it came to me naturally. I would say at first place, I was working with the as a data scientist. I was working with the product management team, and then we basically had to go to market. And one of the PM folks and one of the data science guys, we together used to go out into the market, understand the business part of it, because as a data scientist also it is essential to have a good pulse of data and market data.
Mm-hmm.
So I started interacting with the PM folks, and I then realized that yes, product management is something which is interesting. I
Yep.
had my own research post that. It took me a couple of weeks to get connected with my seniors who
Mm-hmm.
underwent my kind of who were into data science and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say that that was the so I found a better match of, or I won't say better, but a good match of my competencies as a product manager
Mm-hmm.
than as a techie or a data scientist, because I always kind of wanted to be into a domain where I would get to, understand you. So I would say I had a personality which I didn't know what to map to. So
Right.
little did I know that a market with such competencies can be captured, and product guys are now evolving in this domain.
Awesome. Awesome.
Work
Awesome. That's great. I think.
work wise, I would say I pursued the course for product management through Udemy,
Okay.
and
And did that
it's
help
a
you?
yes, naturally
Okay.
it's a very famous course, and
Mhm.
it's I can recommend to folks who are willing to, you know,
Make that
it's
transition.
yes,
Okay. It's the one by Cole Morso, right?
I guess yes, yes,
That's one.
yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
So that gave you a good transition, gave you good knowledge, you can say, for someone who wants to transition, like a good introduction to product. But is that certification something that you can, does that help you while getting a job? Like, for example, you transitioned internally, but when you were looking for the next move, did that certification really play, or what is the process? What steps did you take to make that, move from Tally APM to PM at Truebill?
I think the certification never helps as such. Maybe
Okay.
during the shortlisting, it might help someone to understand that you have a formal training as a PM as well.
Mm-hmm.
But when in interview, you're primarily judged on the, I would say, three major criterias.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One is how good you are at problem solving. You should have the clear thought of how problem can be solved. It should come naturally to you. There's no standard way to adopt, that's this is how I can think. Thinking has no barriers for that matter.
Got it. But is there,
Second,
if we can just go deeper on that point, for example, like say like just roll it back a little bit and say today you are thinking about moving to Truebill, or essentially moving on from Tally. What was your mindset? What are some steps that you take? Did you like go on LinkedIn, look for that, because you were already probably studying the Udemy code? So were you also reading something online? Were you talking to PMs from different companies? What companies were you looking at? How did you shortlist? If you can just walk us through that process, I think that'll be really useful for folks here.
yes, 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 definitely. I think when I tell about, so do you mean the job hunting part?
Yeah.
The job
So the
hunting as a product
yeah,
manager?
exactly.
See, in recent past also, a lot of guys have had discussed with me, and they are techies and they wish to make a move into product management.
Huh.
As I said earlier, while recently a couple of companies have recognized the way, or the market for initial folks as APMs,
Hmm.
but it still comes as a challenge when you are a techie or someone else or in some other role and you want to get into product management. I think some of the things which are always handy is to definitely connect with peers, and so you should first have a target list of companies where you are aiming at.
Hmm.
uh, while you can definitely use platforms like IM Jobs or Insta Hire to understand where there are openings, I would never suggest you to just apply there. Neither would I suggest you to go to LinkedIn Job and apply there, because that does not that doesn't make you
Doesn't
any
work.
different. Yeah,
Right.
you are just getting into the pool of everyone who's trying and hit that company. But it is something to learn that from there you can understand about where all the openings are.
Hmm.
Find those folks. LinkedIn gives you a very good variety of filters.
Hmm.
Find those folks over LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and don't just shoot them with your resume and your interest.
Yeah.
Make an acquaintance, and I would say try and understand at first place whether there actually is a need, and all what are the specifics of the need.
Got it. Got
are
it.
there are there at all interested in getting someone as a newcomer into product management, right?
Hmm.
So I would say that is one way to at least analyze the actual job opportunity.
Hmm.
Suppose the guy agrees to get you as a freshie as a into PM. Still, just don't again throw your CV unless he asks for it.
Hmm.
He or she asks for it. Better is to try and make a better communication, maybe through a call,
Hmm.
and try and connect, and try and in a very pragmatic way explain how do you think you can be an asset to the company, things like those.
Got it.
Uh,
Got
you
it.
know, uh, Something important I want to highlight here.
Hmm.
Generally, as a PM, since you also need to face business and all a lot, you should always take care of which industry it is you're applying as a PM for. Meaning,
Right.
I recently had seen Dreams 11 had posted a couple of jobs,
Yeah.
and I liked something about their criteria that the
Hmm.
guy should be a sports enthusiastic, at least as a PM. So,
Got it.
what I mean to say, uh, out of all of you who are listening or anyone out in the market, if
Yeah.
suppose I myself, if sports doesn't click you, if you're not passionate about sports,
Yeah.
then even if you get in, even if you have skills of a product manager, you know, the passion which drives another guy who is into sports as a product manager would be far more impactful than
Nice,
you. So
nice, nice, nice.
this is something important.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. Um, Next we move on to, for example, now that you walked them through, like, these are steps that you should take pre-interview. How did the actual, like, I think you were mentioning this, how did that interview process at Truebill look like? Or, say that you've shortlisted a bunch of companies, you've reached out to a bunch of acquaintances, either, your circle one or through LinkedIn or different ways you've reached, broken into 3 4 companies. Maybe you could share your experience of how it was, other than Truebill, where all were you looking at, and if you had more than one offers, how did you pick Truebill, and how did the interview process in different companies look like for you in your experience?
Correct. Yes, yes. I would say for me, since I had a data science background,
Mm-hmm.
prior to Truebill in November 2018, I cracked the interview for Paytm.
Nice.
Uh, Paytm Money was launched in September 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and they were looking, and it's an SIP solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
They recommend you the best SIPs as per your profile. So they
Okay.
wanted someone from a data science background into product management.
Nice.
So that was a very good experience. But as
Okay.
I said, that was a very specific uh, domain in product management, which is data science product management. It was there might be few folks who eventually will evolve as data scientists and then as product managers. For them, the as a tip, I would say they there's no lot of expectation as a product manager in other domains. They primarily want you to talk to the data science folks. So there the major boundary is to understand business, think it as a data problem, and talk to the data science folks into data science language,
Okay.
right? So that is
Mm.
the key around which the interview evolves.
Nice.
Whereas if I speak about general product management interviews,
Mm.
and so they could be they look for three primary factors as I was mentioning.
Mm. Mm.
You should be a good thinker and a solving guy,
Yeah.
right? You should, as a next point, you should. It is an edge, always an edge if if you are from a technical background, but
Right.
even if you're not, uh, it's not nothing to worry about. You should be able to communicate logically.
Mm.
You know, uh, you can maybe draw wireframes. You can maybe write pseudocodes. You just don't need to write the syntax. You should be able to tell them that what you mean by a plus b, right?
Right.
And third and key role is to be a very good communicator. You should be able to, I would say, explain your thoughts
Yep.
most in most optimal way and more precisely. It is preciser the better,
Awesome.
because that's what the interviewer
You're
looks
looking
for.
for. Mm-hmm. What are
These
the
are the
different
three roles.
rounds? What are the different rounds that you had? Maybe at Paytm and at Truebill. How many rounds, and what are these? Who are you talking to? What are these stages like?
Paytm had three rounds.
Hmm.
Initial one was the senior PM folk with whom I had to work.
Okay.
He That was the quickest round I have ever had in my so far the career. He
Uh-huh.
just came and he didn't to talk much about it. He simply said he said, "See, I know you are from XYZ college and blah blah." He
Mm-hmm.
just wanted me to solve a data science problem for him, and he just threw at me the very problem they were facing, and he immediately got convinced with what I proposed, kind of. So, but in general, in Paytm, I had three rounds. One was
Mm-hmm.
the folk with which I had to work. Another was the product lead, and third one was with the uh, co-founder, or I wouldn't.
Ishitva, I think I lost your audio. Just give me a minute. So sorry guys, I think he's just joining the call back. But if you guys have any questions so far, if you guys want me to ask him something specific, feel free to put it in the chat section. I think I've just a bunch more questions and we'll pick up the audience questions.
So, as we were talking about what the companies look for, and after highlighting the three criteria of what mainly the product interviews are about, I was telling about product management interview at Paytm, and then I'll talk about Truebill. So in Paytm, I had one round as a data science PM, the senior PM guy who I had to actually work with, followed by the CPO, the Chief Product Officer, and next was the founder of Paytm. So it was a one-day process after lunch till the night. So yeah, that was pretty clear because it was in-person interview.
Good. What kind
Um,
of questions are these? Anything that you remember off the top of your head?
yeah, so as I told you, right, it was a data science
Specific.
primarily it was
Yeah.
yeah, specific to product data science product management. It required me to help them with data science solutions to the problem they were facing, and that was for the first guy. The second guy was CPO, and he didn't want to
More
go in
general.
detail.
Yeah.
It was more general. He wanted to understand how what impact I had created.
In the previous
So
stint.
yes,
Nice.
and finally was the guy who was the founder of or co-founder of Paytm and founder of Paytm Money.
Hmm.
He just wanted to know whether I'll actually be joining them and what my expectation is and stuff. So his
Okay. Okay.
concerns were only at that level.
Got it. Got it. Nice. And at the same time, you were interviewing at Truebill as well. So that
No,
was in
not at
parallel.
the same time. No, not at the
Okay.
same time. It in November 2018 was Paytm.
Huh. But you didn't
Somehow
decide to join Paytm, right? Like you didn't take it up.
I had formally acknowledged as yes, but finally I didn't join.
Okay.
Some
Any reason
some
that you can share here, or was it personal?
Okay, as a tip, I can tell you that
Yeah.
while it's something at personal level, but it's okay. So as
Okay.
a tip, whenever you switch, it's better to set your expectation, compensation expectation.
Got it. So that
Yes,
negotiations. Yes. Yes.
that
Fair point.
because
Fair point.
they may take you for a ride if you don't
Yeah. Fair point.
express yourself.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. I think that was my next question around negotiations around comp. But yeah, fair point. Yep.
And never share your pay slips until you are clear with the offer they want
Nice.
to offer you.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Fair point. Fair point. Okay,
Yes.
maybe I won't dig too deep into that, but yeah, thanks for sharing. And maybe we can move on to say Truebill next, or if there were any other
Yes.
companies in between, you can share
No,
that.
no. I then just Truebill was more of I wasn't earlier interested in Truebill
Huh,
until I
huh,
appeared for the interview, second round
okay,
interview
okay.
or first round. So even the first round was a was but with the senior PM.
Mm,
He was interested to understand how my thought process works. He didn't. delve much into what I worked in Tally. He was more interested in the key skills which I spoke about.
Hmm.
Uh, but in the second round, which was decisive for me more than that for Truebill, was
Hmm.
how I undergo the interview. So basically, a 2.5 hour interview. It was on since it's in Bombay and in Bangalore. It was on and stuff. So uh, again, there the focus was on five aspects. The four aspects, I
Hmm.
would say. How good I am with thinking, and there was this guesstimate asked,
Yeah.
two, three
Yeah.
guesstimates.
Yeah.
Second was product thinking. They generally ask you. It's a very typical way in a product management interview. They generally ask you a product to pick of your choice and speak about it. Next could be a product they want you to think about, or
Hmm.
they want to give you a problem and they want you to come up with the idea of how you can develop a product around it.
Hmm.
And then the fourth aspect was how I see myself into data science, how much
Hmm.
am I comfortable. And fifth one was on stakeholder management, because generally it's just seen that the guys who are very much techie initially or a CS graduate,
Right.
he'll be less likely to be a lot emotional quotient is something people check.
Yes, sir.
They try to see, but it's only after you are in the company they would know. So but your history can explain it a bit, like how have you held situations with different groups and
Got it.
stakeholders.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Fair point. And how did you prepare for these interviews? Any resources that you can share with us? Specific, how much in depth? Any specific tips or resources, books, articles, websites, anything?
I can share with you. Well, I didn't refer these much, but
Okay.
uh, when I had initially joined APM in Tally, there was
Mm.
this, there were few like there's very famous Hooked, if you know.
Hooked. Right. Niraya.
Yes,
Got
and
it.
then there's Decode and Conquer. This
Yes.
my senior PM folk at
Yeah.
Truebill had recommended. It's a pretty
Yeah.
good book.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So these are a few materials. I think I would say in product management, it's more about how you actually are than that of you. What you can learn is a way to be more pragmatic, to
Yep.
follow a standard approach to crack a problem. But
Yep.
as I said, how you think, you cannot learn to think. It's
Got
what
it.
you
Got it.
are.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Fair point. Fair point. Um, moving on, I think we've covered the interview section fair bit. You shared a bunch of resources. So how does your day at as a Truebill or an APM at Tally, how does that look like? How is it different?
Yeah,
What are
it's
the
pretty
similarities?
different.
What is Yep.
Yes, it's see, it depends on industry also, but
Yep.
Tally is a SaaS, software as a service,
Mm-hmm.
and they generally follow a more structured approach, an hybrid towards waterfall model,
Mm-hmm.
and a less agile mode.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I like speaking about Tally at times when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to a structured approach. So Tally has evolved with time. They have 35 years of successful history, and they are still, they have that grit to succeed. So they follow proper bifurcation in product management. It's high
Right.
level. It is a general at high level.
Mm-hmm.
It's product development management and product marketing management.
Got it.
Things like going out in the market, doing user research, understanding the pulse, and giving it back to the company is product marketing management. Many a times you will find this role as product growth product manager.
Right.
Versus when it comes to product development management, that's a total different team who ingests the insights from product marketing manager
Mm-hmm.
and and discuss and evolve and proposes the solution along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Prioritization, writing specifications, and getting more into the core of product management technical team is something is called product development management. So
Okay.
Tally had that level of formal structuring. They
Mm-hmm.
used Jira for tagging and
Ticketing and yeah.
and uh, and other products of Atlassian like Confluence and stuff.
Right.
And I liked working that mode more because that so theoretically and structurally, I would say
Structure,
I
yeah.
was happy. I learned a lot in Tally, but
Nice.
otherwise a
Huh.
young PM, a young PM
Yeah.
wouldn't be held accountable and wouldn't be trusted as much as he or she
In a
would be
smaller
trusted
company.
in a smaller company or a startup.
True. 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 That's
So
fair. And how does that
that's
look like a true bill for you? How does the day to day?
Truebill
Yeah.
has Truebill has its own beauty in terms of so we were more agile,
Yeah.
even more agile. We were agile, more agile than a normal startup is. Like generally, the sprint cycle is for 2 weeks.
Yeah. True.
We used to have it for 1 week.
Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. So
Yes, we were
shipping
a lean.
frequency was pretty fast. Yeah.
It also demanded so because it was a growing and quickly evolving team and
Mm-hmm.
company. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, having that pace was really challenging and interesting one. So,
Got it. Got it.
so
Nice.
we had a
Nice.
lean team. We used to have daily scrums, and that's how we used to use Trello, if you might be
Mm-hmm.
aware.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep.
Trello boards used to help us
Yeah.
raise cards
Yeah.
and create tickets, and Slack is something. So combination and Slack works
Perfectly for
equally
you.
good.
Awesome. 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 And yeah, that gives us an insight into a day of a PM. Personally, for you, how do you keep up with the learning as a product manager now that you're already on the job? Your day-to-day learning on the job outside of work. What does Ishitva do after work, on weekends, etc.?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I'd like to highlight some important aspect here. While
Mm-hmm.
you might get to hear it from across people that it's important to have balance in job and work. But I would say you should always try and maintain that, because the fresher your mind, the better thinker you would be. And as I
Right.
said, thinking is something essential as a product manager. So maybe you can follow a passion. If
Mm-hmm.
it could be following your talent, like I personally am a vocalist,
Oh,
so
nice.
I practice classical music on harmonium. I that's what finds makes me happier.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Uh,
So that helps you keep the
and
balance between the two
keep
things.
the balance. Yes, and learning wise, it's very essential to equally learn new stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, so for me, as I said, the decoder is something I had my senior PM at Truebill had shared
Suggest.
with
Mm-hmm.
suggested, because I actually wanted to see what all are the frameworks. And
Yep.
even though you are pragmatic at your level, but it's better to not to reinvent and try and at least understand how the frameworks are. You can naturally use a version of a framework to fit for your company.
Mm. Nice. Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. And probably the last question from my end, but what's next for Ishitwa? Like you're already APM, PM. So next 2, 3 years, what are your plans? What are you looking to do? Any side projects or what's next for you after COVID for sure? But yeah.
Yes, I would say I still, at least for next 2 3 years, I strongly feel that I should be working more on my learning,
Okay.
uh, because I, while there could be some early stage startups who can call you to be a senior PM folk and stuff,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't personally suggest that to folks who are 2 3 years in product management. They might give you lucrative offers and financially as well as post and designation wise, but for your longer career, if you get in there, your the feedback or having a senior guy to tell you, or the learning might get affected. So I
Mm-hmm.
personally still want to be in a mature startup, or a growing startup,
Yeah.
where I can learn from my mistakes naturally. It's as cliche as it say, but it's very true.
Awesome, 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 awesome.
That's what I want to
Yeah,
say.
that's awesome. All the best for that learning. I'll just pick up one or two questions from, like, I think I have a bunch of questions on private and a bunch on the chat section here. So the first question is around challenges. What are some challenges that you faced in the last 6 months as a currently
Uh,
early stage junior PM?
yes. It's an important one. I think I would say it's very important to for a young PM especially to
Mm-hmm.
learn to set up the right expectation. You know, there's a lot of enthu when you join a company as a PM, and when the stakeholders come and ask you for work, you might get excited, agree to what they say and what they ask you to do. You might think for
Mm-hmm.
multiple problems and propose solutions, but at some point in time you need to prioritize. You should learn to
Mm-hmm.
prioritize and set right expectation.
Got it.
Never
Got
say
it.
that I'll deliver it in next two sprints. Go back to the developers, check with them, check their bandwidth, what's the appetite, are they busy, come back with the ballpark estimation and set a right expectation to the
Fair point.
internal or external folks. And the second important fact I would like to highlight is, see, most of the times as young PMs, the other guys are senior to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you might not be able to voice your suggestion, or rather, I would say, learn to voice your suggestion in a more structured way, because you being junior, and if they cross question, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what, there comes a factor of age and or confidence, right?
Yeah.
So because as a product manager you need the folks to work for product but for you, right? While they don't
Mm-hmm.
report you, but they work for you.
Yep. Yep.
So taking not orders but requirements from you might come as a pinch of salt to senior folks. So
Right. Right.
always be more pragmatic. Let data speak. If you say that we were chasing a metrics A and it hasn't been achieved successfully, these
Hmm.
are the solutions I want to propose, because that's how data suggests.
Awesome. Awesome.
So
Awesome. I
be
think
more
that's a great
data
point.
driven.
Great point. Great point. Great point. Another question that we have is, does your job feel monotonous at some point? Because you mentioned, yeah, you mentioned, I think it's more about Jira, Slack, communication, stakeholder management. So what is it that is exciting in that job?
No, I think rather the product jobs is one of the, I would say it's less likely to be a monotonous one than
Okay.
that of other jobs, maybe,
Okay. Okay.
because you get to interact with folks, you get to solve different problems on daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most monotonous example for me is railway ticketing. You, from morning till evening, you're just doing the same stuff on the same tool,
Yeah.
and from that, so my skill rises from that to a consultant.
Yeah.
Consultants have the most exciting job, and I would say PM lies somewhere closer to a consultant. And so yeah, you get to work on different problems and challenges.
Awesome. 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 Thank you. That's a great anecdote. I think it's a great analogy that you shared. A bunch of other questions are again around your interview prep. And is there anything you'd like to add on? I think we've covered most of it. People are asking about how do you switch? Can you give us some interview tips as an entry level product manager who would like to switch to a better organizations? What can we do to improve our skills? So any specific? I think we've covered most of it, but any specific resources or any specific things that they can do on a day to day? Any exercises that have helped
Yes,
you?
yes, yes, yes. Something I think I forgot to cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, you know, it's very good to work on a demonstration project. If you have nothing to do, like right now in pandemic, if you are locked down and you are free,
Mm-hmm.
I would say just pick a couple of products you use on daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Just follow, probably just after taking a formal learning into a very nominal framework like circles or any other
Yeah. Yeah.
of how to crack a PM problem, and fit that frame into a daily
Life
problem you're
product that you.
facing. Yes,
Hmm.
yes. Maybe it could be anything like Uber, Google Map. There's always a room for improvement.
Perfect.
And
Perfect. Yeah.
That's, I would say, prepare a
Yeah, it's a great.
demonstration
Yeah, it's
and
a great idea.
yeah, and pitch it to the guy if the guy asks you for.
Awesome, amazing idea. And guys, even if you're not looking to switch, but you like to write, feel free to shoot it out to us, and we're happy to spread the word for you guys. So it's a great idea. Thanks for sharing that, Ishitva. And yeah, I think that's about it for us on the question style. Thanks so much for sharing those insights. And if any point of time, I think you're already there in the group. So I think what would be the best way for people to reach out to you? LinkedIn or
Yes, they can message me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to respond.
awesome, awesome. So guys, feel free to reach out to Ishitva on LinkedIn, and if you did find this session interesting, do give him a shout out as well. So feel free to like join the. I think Nikunj has also shared the LinkedIn group. Feel free to post any other questions. You might have some questions after this session, so feel free to post it out there or reach out to any of us. We're happy to help. And yeah, once again, thanks so much, Ishitva, for sharing those insights, and thanks once again to everyone for joining us. As Ishitva mentioned earlier, stay safe, uh, keep preparing hard, and hope sessions like these help you guys as well. Stay safe.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
And
Bye.
see you. I'll catch you soon.